Growing up, we were always told to never go on the dark web, 'cause if you go on there, you'll regret it. Which is true, there's a bunch of inappropriate and crazy things on the dark web. But these people went on the dark web anyway, even with knowing all the dangers on there. And some got betrayed by their friends and got their address leaked on the dark web. Let's check out these stories.
I'm making beats for a boring dumb bee. You're gnarly. I'm not jealous of my mansion. Yes, the view is forking gnarly.
This girl visited the dark web when she was young and really regretted it. The website somehow knew her name and other stuff.
I've always had a fixation on the dark web, but when I was 15, I actually went down the rabbit hole. If you know me, you know that I love everything spooky, creepy, mysterious. For some reason, I decided to live that to the fullest extent possible when I was 15 and went onto the dark web. 5 years later, I finally feel safe and comfortable enough to share it with everyone. Just bear with me, it's kind of spooky. If you're watching this at night, maybe come back at a different time. Been on the dark web, you know, it takes a while to find something actually jaw-dropping. A lot of it's just like broken onion links and things like that.
I tried to go on the dark web before. When I was like 7, I legit couldn't find it at all. It's very hard to find the dark web, which is good.
Most accessible on the dark web from my experience are things like drugs. However, I finally was able, after hours of scrolling and searching, able to find a website that was hella spooky. Basically, it was a massive group chat.
Someone in this group chat somehow figured out her personal information. That's just crazy to me. That's why you should never go on any dark web websites. They can easily get your information without you even clicking anything.
It was a black background with red text with a lot of what I think were satanic symbols and a lot of like really poorly coded things all around the website. I stumbled into a bunch of people talking in tongues and in different languages. Finally, somebody said my name. They said, "Blank, what are you looking for?" I threw my phone. I was so scared. Even though I was 15, I was smart enough to use a VPN and cover my camera and everything, but this obviously scared the living shit out of me. My stupid, curious ass responded saying, "Oh, I'm just browsing." They sent a bunch of links which I did not click on. Well, here are the categories that are most popular within this chat. It was things that I can't even say. I got booted out of that chat and I still wanted to continue my journey on the dark web.
If I would have got kicked out from a dark web group chat, I would take that as a sign to stop browsing the dark web. They probably thought she was the feds or cops. That's why they kicked out her.
So as I'm going along, I see this site that is just horrific. I've seen those websites where, you know, people are each other and things like that, but this website that I came across were animals attacking humans and a lot of other stuff. That's not even the weirdest part. Finally got off whenever I saw in a different group chat a photo of a black camera being posted and somebody said, "Looks like this little girl was smart enough to cover their camera." Somebody replied to it saying, "Is that the girl Emily who just joined?" That's me.
Lol OMG. She was so smart to cover her camera this whole time. They could have saw her face and took a picture and maybe try and track her down.
I said, hell no, I exited out of everything, whatever. Creepiest part is when I started getting no caller ID calls, which I never answered, and message requests, hundreds of message requests to my Instagram account.
Okay, I'm so amazed. How in the world did they find her Instagram and her phone number? People on the dark web are so creepily weird. It's like they have this big system that can easily track anybody that uses their site.
I had a really bad gut feeling, so I never opened the message requests. You know how on Instagram when you open a message request and somebody sent a photo that you can't actually see the photo until you accept it? That's what they were photos, and I was too much of a I literally just deleted my Instagram account and started over. I never saw what all of those message requests were for. I was shitting bricks. Basically, don't go on the dark web. Don't be like me. It is a terrifying and traumatizing experience. Definitely changed the way that I saw strangers that I walk past every day and how I just saw the internet in general. Stay curious, but always, always, always stay safe.
Yeah, after hearing this story, I will never try and enter the dark web. They literally got her Instagram, her phone number, her name, and tried to look in her camera. Absolutely not. Would you ever go on the dark web if you were dared to? Tell me in the comments. You shouldn't. What would you do if you found out that someone you were close to leaked your address on the dark web? Personally, I'll be so mad, 'cause what do you mean you have the most creepiest and weirdest people on earth? My address? Like, there's so many things wrong with that. But unfortunately, there's not much you can do after that happens. Usually the web already puts in their files. But let's hear this person's experience.
Story time of how my address was put on the dark web. You heard that correctly, the dark web. So I had this friend group in high school and 2 of them had just started dating. There was 4 girls, I think, 4, yeah, and then 2 boys. And one of the girls was my best friend and one of the boys was just a boy. It was really weird. He used to say like horrible stuff. It got to a point in high school later on when he said it's okay for women. So yeah, he's not a good guy. Anyway, so moving on from that, I know that's a statement, but we're moving on back to what we were talking about. So they got together, right, and me and her have an argument. Now, we used to petty argue all the time. The longest argument that we've ever had lasted about a week. This one lasted a couple of hours. Tell me why I get a phone call from Sam. I'm name dropping because you. Okay, I get a call from Sam and he's like, hello, and he starts asking me why we've fallen out, and I'm like, it was over something stupid, we're fine now, you know what I mean? We're fine. And he was like, well, I'll put your address on the dark web because I love her so much.
If I had friends like her, I don't know what I would do with my life. First off, if your friend is doing stuff like this over an argument, then that's a big red flag. Friends don't go as far as trying to dox your location. That has to be illegal or something. Like, there's no way she let that slide. I would have called the cops on them.
And I was like, what? 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 And he was like, well, she told me to. I was like, she told you to. I repeated it back to him and he said, well, no, but she knows. So she didn't tell you to. And I doubt she knows because I spoke to her about it actually. She had no idea. She had no idea. And I literally spoke to her about it last night because it came up in my head. I was like, oh my God.
And he's lying to her too. That's another red flag. This guy is a walking red flag. He can't be trusted at all.
And she was like, I swear to you, I had no idea. And I was like, I didn't think you did anyway. So anyway, he put my address on the dark web and I was like, brilliant. I told him to remove it. He was like, well, I can't just remove it. For someone who thinks he's a hacker, tech fucking diva, you're not. What do you mean you can't remove it from the dark web? You went like, delete the post, remove the thread. And then my house gets broken into. My house got broken into a couple months after that. I don't know if it's linked because I never told my parents that you put my address on the dark web. But we haven't really, where we live, you don't get that kind of stuff. There was one other break-in and that was our neighbours, like the people we lived next to. And it was years and years and years ago. And that is the only one that I can actually remember. And then the difference was the guy that came to our house was dressed in fully black.
That's so scary. A guy dressed in all black. Heck nah. I'm buying a new house then.
Including a balaclava, okay? He was ready.
What do you mean he was ready?
Luckily, there was someone in the house. They punched him and they ran away. They got a bit scared. They got spooked. At first, we thought it was obviously the roadmen around our, but they were way too, like, big, tall, you know what I mean? It actually freaks me out. Like, what if my address is still on there? Is my address still on there, Sam? If it is, you better remove it. You better remove it. Yeah. Anyway, I love you. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Sleeping at night would be hard for me, knowing that my address is on the dark web. Feels so bad for her. But what would you do if you found your parents on the dark web? Yeah, no. I could never see them the same again.
I searched my parents' names on the dark web. The videos I found were horrifying. When my friend first introduced me to the dark web, I was amazed at how such an unknown thing could house some of the most illegal things on earth. Up until today, I had only used it for learning how to code and commit small crimes. But after the horrifying videos I just found, I don't think I'll ever use the dark web again.
What? You shouldn't be on the dark web anyway. I wonder if he saw his parents' face on there or maybe just saw their legal name.
I first met my best friend Rupert When I started my freshman year of high school, my parents had moved us to a new town, and I had no friends. We moved because they were paranoid after our neighbor was found murdered in his home. I thought this was weird, moving across the country over that, but I let it go. The reason Rupert and I became friends so quickly was because we both had a shared interest in the internet and everything it had to offer. I was a gaming addict and a tier 3 Pokemon subscriber, while he was more of a coder and developer. 2 years later, we were still best friends, but now we were much older and smarter. Rupert had discovered the dark web, and he was obsessed with it. He pretty much spent every hour of the day on it, searching through.
Hey you, yes you, you've made it this far into the video and haven't liked and subscribed yet. Well, you should like and subscribe, and if you want a part to comment down below, Candy. Bye bye my winters.